Hello, this is the first video for this channel. I'm a teacher and I have another channel that deals with that. Men and boys today have to navigate a confusing world that can be hostile to them while not giving them the tools to aid in the navigation of this world. I've found this out in the classroom. Many times I'm asked, "Are you married?" My reply is always, "No, why the hell would I want to do that?" A short, humorous dialogue follows, and many times the subject is dropped. However, a few times a young man or group of young men seek more from me. In these cases, I will discuss the world as I see it and include references to videos on YouTube that I've watched. I will also include some websites and free PDFs for them to view. I found in these young men a hunger for the knowledge and wisdom that I've accumulated in my lifetime. So I give them as much as I can in the short time that I'm with them. With modern technology, it is now possible for me to reach more young men. This channel is geared toward high school and college-aged boys and men, although others may find the content useful. Books such as Dr. Helen Smith's Men on Strike and Hannah Rosen's The End of Men and the Rise of Women discuss some of the new paradigms of today's world. Men are not getting married, not going to college and universities, or striving in the workforce as they had in the past. While a few men such as me understand this phenomenon, many do not. One concern is the effect on society by this lack of participation by men. Many men feel pressured into doing things such as getting married because of the perceived positive impact on society, regardless of how this action will affect them. However, more and more men will refuse this route. A few years ago, I spoke to my parents' neighbor when I was visiting. We have had a lot of interesting talks. She's a liberal and I'm a conservative. But our discussions were respectful, rational, and reasonable. On the subject of men not marrying anymore, she asked, what is the effects this will have on society? Indeed, many will ask that same question. For the men that are watching this, I have something very important to tell you. Society does not give a damn about you. As a man, society really does not give a damn about you. Now that's a cold hard fact for men to digest, but it is necessary. I tell men this, not for them to complain, nor to whine about the injustice of it, but to be aware of it. Once a man is aware of this fact, he can act accordingly. I'm going to post a link to a video in the description box entitled The Empathy Gap by Dr. Janice Biamingo. She presents evidence of this phenomenon. I will continually direct you to other videos to flesh out the points that I make on this channel. Actually, as a man, once this fact is understood, it can enable him to experience freedom in a way that before was not possible. Now, I want to differentiate between society and country. To me, they are two different things. I'm an American living in the United States, and I love this country. The society, not at all. Now, the society now is very different from the society that I grew up in during the 70s and 80s. That society was different from the society that my parents grew up in during the 50s, which was different from the society of the youth of my grandparents in the 30s and the 40s, of the Great Depression and the Second World War. Before I continue, I need to go over two definitions. The first definition is symbiotic, a cooperative relationship as between two persons or groups. Symbiotic relationships exist in nature amongst various species. For example, there is a bird that eats bugs off a hippopotamus. This relationship is symbiotic because both parties benefit from the arrangement. The bird cleans the skin of the hippo, and the hippo provides food for the bird. In order for a relationship to be symbiotic, both parties must benefit. The second definition is parasitic, habitually relying on or exploiting other people. While we normally think of parasitic as a flea on a dog or a cat, I will use this definition of parasitic because I want to show that people can be parasitic to other people. This is where the first party benefits at the expense of the second party. The second party receives no benefit from the relationship. Now that these two definitions are understood, it is important to understand this. The relationship between men and society is no longer symbiotic, it is parasitic. Years ago, men were held in esteem by society. They built the country after World War II. A man that was a husband and a father was seen as the ultimate in being a man. He was revered and respected. This is no longer the case. The fact is that society is downright hostile to men. A man is only good for what he can produce, not for who he is as a man. No longer does character count. A woman can divorce a man of excellent character and demand payments in the form of alimony and child support. It does not matter that the man was a good husband or a good father. All that matters is that he pays. This is one of the many dangers that confront men in today's society. For young men, they can be ignorantly putting themselves in harm's way without even realizing it. However, the nice thing about ignorance is, unlike stupidity, it can be remedied with knowledge. That is what this channel will seek to address. Now that you, as a man, understand that society does not give a damn about you, what are you to do? The first thing is this. As a man, you no longer have an obligation to sacrifice for the benefit of society. This can actually be freeing if it is absorbed. Look around and see how many other men are miserable because they have sacrificed for others and obtained no benefit for such sacrifice. As a man, your life is now yours and yours alone. Since society does not give a damn about you, you have no obligation to give a damn about society. Now, this does not mean that you now have license to go through life being rude and disrespectful to people. In fact, I would recommend making all interactions with other people as polite and pleasant as possible. If one thinks about it, most daily interactions with others are less than a minute. Being polite does not equate to weakness. That is a mistake many make, and it will be detrimental to men to make this mistake. I will talk about this in a future video. What this means as a man that you no longer have to cater to other people. An exception is an employer, because as an employee you're getting compensated for catering to an employer. I will discuss this in more detail in future videos so that such relationships can be advantageous to you. Finally, even though you no longer have obligations to society, you still have obligations. These are what I call the 4 obligations. The first obligation is to obey the law. What I mean by that is to be a decent law-abiding citizen. I'm not talking about something like the man in Oregon who was fined for putting a pot outside when it rained, collecting rainwater, and then got fined. That's stupid. There's also the rancher in Wyoming that, on his own property, mind you, dug a hole for a pond for his livestock so the livestock would have a water source. The EPA fined him, but he won in court. These are examples of decent people dealing with idiot members of the political class. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is don't be a criminal. Be a decent law-abiding citizen. It's not that hard. The next obligation is to pay required taxes. Everyone has to pay them. One can vote politicians in office that say they want to reduce them, but they must be paid. Do not put yourself in a position to owe huge amounts of taxes. It can destroy you. I often think of mobster Frank Costello when I think of taxes. His biography is on YouTube. He was in front of the Kefauver Commission when he was asked, "Bearing in mind all that you have gained and received in wealth, what have you ever done for your country as a good citizen?" Frank Costello answered, "Paid my tax." And there was laughter. He looked kind of stupid, but something I always remember. I also want to talk about the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. One is legal and the other is illegal. Tax avoidance is using the tax law to make your taxes as low as legally possible. Using the deductions allowed by your law to lower a tax obligation is legal, and as a man, you should never feel guilty about doing so. The elites do it, so can you. Tax evasion is the illegal hiding of income from the government in order to fraudulently hide the true tax obligation of an individual. It is illegal. Make sure you understand the difference. Next is don't commit torts. A tort is a civil wrong committed against a party as opposed to a criminal wrong. A good example is that in the trial of O.J. Simpson, he was acquitted of the criminal crime of murder. However, he was sued by the parents of his victims and found liable for their deaths by the tort of wrongful death. Think about when you would sue somebody or somebody would sue you in a civil court. The wrong is called a tort. Some common torts are assault, battery, false imprisonment, slander, libel, and negligence. Understand what they are and strive to avoid committing them. Finally, contribute something. What I mean by this is to have some skill or talent to earn a living. This is not for society, but for you. This is part of what I will be talking about in later videos. It is essential for physical, mental, and emotional health. I do this with my teaching, tutoring, and writing. This is my purpose, and I've had jobs in the tech and military. These gave me the ability to have experiences that most people will never have. So subscribe and get more knowledge and wisdom in future videos.